Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
So today we're not talking about Richard Jennings. He's my friend on Twitter today. We're going to talk about um, hacking your way to the top, how to succeed in business without really trying. How's that? Is that a clever title or what? Yeah, we got it.
Getting ready for Broadway, huh?
Yeah, let me just adjust my microphone here. We're really a class. We're a class operation here. There we go.
Yeah.
Terrific. So we had we've actually had two incidents this week. One with the flashlight app that we'll talk about in a second. And second, you guys might have this better. I think 76,000 accounts got hacked at JPMC.
Yeah.
So, frankly, I'm glad that they're reporting on. I'm sure that this is going on more and more. But let's start our news with the 76,000. Sorry, let's start with the flashlight app.
76
flashlight.
76 million.
That's what I meant to say, million. Zeros. What zeros don't count?
Yeah, in Marco's world, zeros are nothing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Just a rounding error. So, the flashlight app. We heard this week from our friend, Mr. Ramos.
Yes, Mr. Dan Ramos.
Mr. Dan Ramos, we'll give him full credit of this.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'll have to thank him a lot because this news came out and he got to our newsroom immediately and reported that the flashlight app, Chris, the one you like so much, has a problem. Dave, why don't you tell us the problem?
Well, the problem is 8 out of 10 of the most popular flashlight apps in the Google Play Store. So this is one for you, Marco, Mr. iOS, because I don't think they have that problem as much. But 8 out of 10 of the apps in the Google Play Store apparently have some kind of a Trojan in it and malware, which essentially means if you install this app on your phone or one of these flashlights, even if you uninstall the app or don't use the app, as soon as it installs, a little thing that says, do I agree to install this, and you click through the standard user license agreement that you do, and you install any app on your phone, you're giving it access to your address book, your location services, all sorts of information about yourself. And then as you do things and go through things like banking, looking at your credit card statements, looking up phone numbers, whatever you want to do in it, as you start looking at it, it starts offloading that data and sending it to either Russia or China. Could be both. I'm not sure exactly where, Middle East, whatever. People that basically are trying to spy on Americans or other people, get this information to use for whatever reason they want, which is clearly not good. Because, I mean, I remember the article about it. One of the comments that the commentator made, I forgot his name exactly, I thought it was brilliant, was if you bought a flashlight and had to sign a EULA agreement for the flashlight to say that I'm going to give you the names of all the people that I know because I bought this flashlight from you as well as all my account numbers, you probably wouldn't buy that flashlight. So, the first thing people should do is uninstall the light. The only problem that's kind of interesting is even if you want to install it, apparently these Trojans still stay on your machine. So the only thing that you can actually do to effectively get rid of it, from what I understand, is actually do a factory reset on the device, which is a real pain because then you have to reestablish and set up the whole device again.
Right. And Dan was telling me that this is actually occurring in iOS too.
Yeah, it's in both. I was just about to get to that. I was going to say you weren't off the hook, but that one particular article only talked about Google users. But it apparently is all these flashlight apps. So, what can people do as a PSA? Just to be safe, don't use a flashlight app. Now, on my S5, my Samsung Galaxy S5, it came with a flashlight app on it from Samsung. I'm assuming
iOS is the same thing, but what I think is happening, people have them from when the units did not have flashlights.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember I used to use a really cool one that had like Morse code on it if you're ever stuck in the woods someplace, or all this strobe light, all these neat little features. But, as far as I'm concerned, I took them all off, and I won't be using those. It's not a compelling enough application, considering now I just have a widget from Samsung that just turns it into a flashlight while I'm taking the garbage out at night. Easy, so.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy. I have to be. I'll break my neck. My driveway's so long, I'll kill myself going down.
Chris, you know that guy, right, Chris? I'm sure there's a couple in your in the apartment there.
Well, I live in a condo, so yeah, it's not nearly as bad. There's lights outside all the time.
But where I think this is really interesting, where it ties into what we do here, is we're just talking about the consumer side of this, right? So this is the end user piece. How does that affect our CXO friends?
Yeah, that's a great
That's
question.
That's what gets real interesting, right? Now you have corporate data, exchange accounts.
Right, but here's what's really interesting. The problem here is that those applications are not doing anything illegal.
No, they're not. And you're agreeing to it, but that's because people don't read the license agreements.
That's what it is. It's a licensing agreement now. But the bigger issue that we want to talk about is all those apps are entering your enterprise space. Who is making the determination if it's okay to be on there or not?
So there's a couple of different ways companies approach this, and some companies will provide devices and not allow people to BYOD to bring their own device. And I've even got clients who set up their own app store, and so they provide the device and they provide connections to an app store, and that app store is not iTunes or Google Play. It's a privately hosted and protected app store, and that's got the apps that they have checked out and they agree are fine to use. And so they put those in the app store for their employees with the supplied devices coming from the company. So if you've got a high security environment and that's what you need, that's probably the best route to go. But that means that you're going to have to provide devices to everybody, and then everybody's going to whine because you're not rolling out the iPhone 6 yet.
Well, yeah, and also there's the issue, what if you have your own device? How many people really want to carry two smartphones with them?
I see people doing that all the time, right?
I see it as well, but how many people actually want to do that? I think that's the real question. It's not, it's nothing that would appeal to me. I've seen those people that have the iPhone in one pocket and a BlackBerry in the other, still to this day.
Yeah.
And you see them on planes usually, but it's still like, it just seems way overkill. So to me, the question is, there's a ton of companies out there that offer these sandboxing type of apps, right? Where if you have an enterprise, you can set up kind of a safe space for all your business assets to be included on these different mobile devices with your own security policy rolled out. The users could do whatever they want. What I don't know the answer to, and I wonder what you guys think, is if I have one of those sandboxes running, an enterprise sandbox running on my device, tablet, whatever it might be, is my stuff actually safe if I have one of these exploits running, or is this thing so insidious that it's actually going through the sandbox and able to get my data? That's got to freak out CIOs.
That's a good question, and I don't know what the the level is there, but yeah, there's definitely endpoint management rolled out. So you can install that in a coordinated and centralized way and manage it, and that gives the CIO the ability to manage all those devices and remotely control them and do whatever he needs to do to make them safe and secure. So it's a wonderful thing. It typically creates an encrypted partition on the phone, and then that's where you put your email and other documents that you're using.
Are we talking about like a mobile iron, something like that?
Yeah, there's a couple of dozen of them out there. It depends on the platform you're looking at, whether it's iOS or Android, but or even Windows for that matter, or BlackBerry.
Or BlackBerry, yep, that's what they do.
Well, that's their claim to fame, right? That was their claim to fame by the Bez servers.
And that's why they're a software company now, sort of.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's another day, another show.
Taking shots at my customers. Anyway.
Well, that's because you have too many customers.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So that allows a great level of control. The challenge is that, working across multiple devices and all that kind of stuff becomes a challenge. Which Android version are you running? Which iOS version are you running? What's the device support? All that kind of stuff. You set up a couple of gig partition. Suddenly the guy can't carry as many songs as he did, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a complex challenge for people today.
It is. I think it's a big issue, and I think we're going to see a lot more about this in the news now as more apps are discovered to be loaded with this. What really concerns me is I know the rule, the rumor is if you want to publish an app, anybody wants to publish an app, you can just throw it into the Google Play Store and it will get out there. I guess proof is in the pudding now that there's all these exploits out there in Google Play. I'm still a fan of Google and Android, and I like the platform, but I obviously have some concerns, and I'll be personally more careful about what I download and try to figure stuff out more. But iOS has always had the reputation for having this walled garden and being a lot more restrictive to things that you can actually deploy inside of their app stores. But yet they've also had some stuff slip through too. So
absolutely.
You mean like Bash?
But there's lots of things. There's lots of things that they've had the problems with. I don't know if it's a scalable event of what Apple is doing to be able to catch everybody that's out there, right? I mean, think of all these stupid games that are coming out. Who's controlling them? Right?
Yeah.
No matter if you sandbox it or not, and I'm sure that they have great tools to look at the sandboxing, but something's going to get away from you.
Yeah, like here's a perfect example. I'm a big user of LinkedIn. Really like their platform. I do a ton of InMails. My InMails go through my Gmail account. My Gmail account's not in any kind of a sandbox. However, for work, I use, the Exchange server. I have them both on the same device. But I have customer communication between me and potential clients going back and forth through Gmail, through my LinkedIn application. That's not part of the sandbox. So I technically have information about my company going out to other people and coming back through Gmail. What if my Gmail gets hacked?
Well,
And then you see where I'm going with this, right? There's other channels of communication. Plus, people are using things like text messages to communicate with clients now.
Well, that's huge. And that's a problem that, Chris, you and I have talked about several times about the new text messaging thing, right? Let's talk about Gmail for a second. All these items, first of all, let's not pick on Gmail. Any free mail.
Well, any web mail.
What do we call cloud-based mail?
Any web mail.
No, not webmail. Hold on a second. Anybody whose business model is it that they will provide you email at the cost of your information.
Yes, okay.
Okay?
But that's a lack of understanding of what free services are.
No, forget about free service, because it's not only free service, right? Because when you're paying for Google Apps, it's no longer a free service, and you're still getting that same platform, right?
I would agree with you on that one.
Okay. So, sorry, let me adjust there. So, how many companies are now moving away from having their mail servers in their location under their control?
Lots.
Right.
Yeah, most.
What is the real cost of that? I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't get that.
Well, except for finance and health, yes, you're right.
Well, no.
Get off of 365.
You're right.
I mean, you're going to a Microsoft cloud environment with that. In a lot of cases.
Okay.
Right. Now, granted that those sites, like the Azure and all those sites, probably have better security than most of the companies that we deal with, right? Mm-hmm. But what is happening to your data? Nobody knows. Right?
Right.
And not only your data, but everybody that you communicate to. Right?
Yes.
So, and people with two phones, a lot of times what they do is they try to go from their work phone to their Gmail account so they can get any other phone.
Mm-hmm. So they forward their work email to their Gmail?
Yeah, I see that all the time.
Yeah, and Gmail has a feature. You can go in there and add an account. So if your work server allows you to basically pop your mail, then you could basically add your work account as a pop server to it. It's almost like the way BlackBerry used to set up a BlackBerry in the old days. You'd be able to pop your mail to it. It's basically, it's a little scary.
Right, and now how many times does somebody set up their email to use a different DNS on the way out? Right, because you can actually send from Marco,
DNS or a different SMTP?
I'm sorry, SMTP. So you can actually send Marco at Techreact.com, not a real address, and you can actually send it using my Google SMTP and still be Marco at Techreact.com on the way out, right?
Well, then someone just spoofed you.
No, but you can do that. I could actually do that, right?
Well, it's the alias feature, actually, right?
Right.
And you can send it out as anything you want.
But there's no way for somebody, unless you're looking at the header, there's no way for somebody to notice that.
And who looks at headers?
Right. And now you have your email going through somebody else's servers to do that.
Right, and that was kind of a much more detailed version of my LinkedIn to Gmail thing I was talking about.
Right. But what I'm saying is that this is a huge-ass problem.
Yeah.
That nobody's really paying attention to. And I think everybody out there is making it so that nobody pays attention to it.
Yeah, well, they're just telling you not to look at the monster under the bed because there isn't one there. But maybe there is. Right, so that's the gist of it.
I'll buy that.
So I think that email is a huge, huge problem.
So we better off just all going to text messaging?
I don't
Chris
know.
is happy. I know I just made him happy by saying that.
I just don't know what the ramifications of that is either. Now, there's a lot of companies out there. I was working with one for a while that will take your text message and encrypt it point to point. There's a lot of those actually. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm comfortable enough to communicate somebody SMTP. I mean SMS.
You're a little too verbose to be able to do that, to be honest.
Well, yeah, let's just say Marco talks a lot. We'll leave it at that. It depends what you're doing, right? if it's ordinary day-to-day business, you're providing a quote for your services to your customer, things like that. While you consider that to be, important and all, it doesn't put anybody else at risk. And I think that the big thing that you need to understand, and we all need to understand, is, if I'm sending a list of customers' names, address, phone numbers, and credit card numbers to my credit card processing company, that needs to be protected. But if I'm just communicating in a normal business sense, one-on-one, or one to half a dozen or a dozen, I think that probably most of that stuff, with the exception of, how do I secure my system? How do I protect my information? That kind of stuff. That doesn't have to be protected. If I'm talking about what security measures my company takes, yeah, that should be. And, and we take care of that by sending encrypted documents and things like that. So,
See, I agree with you on everything you're saying there. I think the question is, are businesses today thinking at that level and looking at it, where is all this data going? Who needs access to what? Beyond just looking at the enterprise, realizing that every single user on their network with multiple devices is now a new potential exploit or a new spot that can get into their network and get stuff out. And we know hackers are thinking that way, but has the general business world thought about that at that level now? Or are they still worried about firewalls and protecting their corporate laptops? That's where I think it gets interesting, because you're right with everything you said. The key thing is, how much are people really thinking about all this other stuff? Because we are in a different world than we were 5 years ago now.
I agree, and I think that the challenge is to understand what you're doing and then figure out a way to put it together that's economically reasonable.
Exactly. So shall we talk about our second topic?
I'm not talking anymore. You guys go right ahead.
Man, I've never seen you so quiet before. Sorry, if I offended you, I'm truly sorry. What was the next topic? We would talk about the guys over at JPMC?
Yeah, I just don't know if this is a JPMC issue or they're just in the news. So
I would say it's not a JPMC issue.
Right.
It's not.
They reported that 76 million with an M accounts got hacked. Now, I don't know what that really means, but I got a feeling that I'll be getting a new credit card in the mail.
Well, they didn't say accounts got hacked, actually. They were pretty firm about saying the account data wasn't hacked. What they said was customer information, meaning your name, address, phone number, identity information, but not the account numbers themselves, is what they were claiming.
So
Right.
just the information that has the account number, but not the account number?
No account numbers. They said everything but the account number, essentially.
I don't know. I guess somebody. I
I had
guess
a hard time reconciling that too. But anyways, that's what the article said.
I guess that like people like LifeLock or whatever those companies are gonna get like these companies to pay for people accounts. I don't know. I don't know.
I wonder if JPMC bought LifeLock yet. No.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, there are a bunch of those out there, and I have a couple of those running concurrently because my cards were breached in different things. One of the so there's a couple of things, right? So according to the bank, and for a lot of companies, one of the things to understand is the concept of PII, personally identifiable information, right? And PII is a collection of information that can identify you as an individual. And the problem is that there are 1,000 different definitions of what PII is. One of the standard definitions is that it takes 3 pieces of information. So a name and an address and a telephone number, or a name and an address and a credit card number. Those 3 things taken in combination are PII. But just a name and an address is not necessarily PII, because that's in the white pages, of your telephone book and that kind of stuff. So in this case, from JP Morgan, from one consideration of what PII is, there was no disclosure of PII. There was a name and a phone, or a name and an address, and that's it.
But there's one other detail that they got too. So they actually have 2 things. They also know that you have a relationship with JP Morgan.
Yeah, then it becomes like social engineering, right?
Well, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? You get enough data about someone, you can get them to give up the rest by sending them a phishing or some kind of an email that goes to them saying your account information has been compromised. Please confirm this information. You have a website that looks very much like the real site. Even the URL is masked and looks similar to it. And you basically click on it and go fill in that info, and now they have the rest.
I don't even think they have to do that, right? There was an issue about 2 years ago now that somebody called Amazon and was able to hack Amazon just by calling and say, I'm David Levin. You can hack your way and just say, I need my password reset, right?
Well, that's how they did the whole iCloud thing, right?
That's what I'm saying. That was
Lots
the
of people got nailed that way. Sure.
Right.
And that's always going to happen, right? That's always going to be out there. Right, until they come up with something where you can take a retinal scan with your phone, or something along those lines, right? And that's the reason why, on my enterprise implementation, right, we always require 2-factor and things like that, and why in my personal life I have 2-factor on everything I can get it on, because you never know what's going to happen. And I can tell you, quite literally, last Saturday afternoon, I was out with my wife and son, and I got a text from JP Morgan that said, did you just spend $536 at the Toys R Us somewhere in Connecticut? And they caught that because there aren't any kids in my life, and I don't buy toys. And I text, 1 for yes and 2 for no, and I text back a 2, and then they called me in 5 minutes, and we walked through it, and I had new credit cards Tuesday morning. And so they're on top of it. They're watching it, and they caught somebody, and I think it probably had something to do with the fact that I parked my car in the parking garage near my office, because it happened before. But in any case, so that's out there and running around. So they've got good tools, and they're working very hard to make sure they can stay on top of all this stuff.
Yeah, I had a similar thing happen to me when I was in London a few months ago. I went to buy something using a debit card. I'll leave the bank out of it. And my transaction wouldn't go through. I thought it was because I just had a magstripe reader. It turned out they thought that I got an email shortly after on my phone telling me that, contact the bank. We think someone's outside of the country using your card. So it just took one quick phone call and I was unlocked, but a little scary for a few minutes.
Yeah,
I was happy though. It's better than seeing the transactions go through otherwise, but it can be pretty inconvenient as well.
Yeah, and once again, it's all about your systems, right? There should be, in 2014, there should be a way that your systems are smart enough, and maybe that's that chip in a credit card. Maybe it's that identity button on the iOS 6 or 7 or whatever it is, on the iPhones, right? But it shouldn't be this easy, because the two conflicting issues are, one, they want to make it easy for you to spend your money, and two, you have to make it safe to spend your money, right?
Right.
And those two are conflicting forces.
Well, that's what the chip credit cards do, right? They really help a lot.
Right, but that doesn't stop. But how's that going to stop people from buying online?
That's a good question. I guess they have to get somewhere with that.
Right, because all those, they're making a big deal about the chip thing, but I'd like to see some numbers on how many of those issues there are versus, online. Somebody gets your credit card number, and don't forget, we're the idiots that will just hand this card over in New Jersey, that is, to the guy who's making $2 an hour pumping your gas.
Yeah, and if you've noticed, when you travel around to other places, it's very common now for them to do the credit card transaction at a restaurant tableside.
Wait, but even worse, in New Jersey, how many times, Chris, do you get somebody your credit card to get filled, and somebody goes, "What is your zip code?"
Yeah.
And what do?
Well, you give it to them. There's no choice, right?
Right, so you give your zip code, and now I got 2 things of information, 3 things of information, so I know what town you live in, what your name is, and what your credit card number is.
Yeah.
Right, so we're not secure. Period.
You can pay cash for getting gas. You save a couple of bucks. You save some money too with Jersey.
No, you don't.
They charge you like 5 or 10 cents more per gallon.
Yeah, but most of the better ones don't the same things. But anyway, those are just some of the issues that we're not going to be able to solve on this podcast for sure.
No, of course.
And
but coming back to the enterprise.
Yeah, that's what my point was.
I thought we were going somewhere with this.
I think the issue is that the people who are handling big data for enterprises need to figure out how to protect it in a good way and how to detect things. And I think that most of the recent significant breaches have one thing in common, and that's persistence. That's instead of getting in and getting out, people are getting in and lying low and quietly collecting things. And that's the scary bit.
Right, because they're just adding all this information to a database, and it just accumulates, right? And we tried and succeeded not to mention any countries, because although people point fingers at countries, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares what country it is?
Yeah, it's not there, then they're just going to move somewhere else, right?
Yeah, and in a global environment like we have today, you've just got to look at the big picture.
This is one case where the world is flat.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a small picture.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll come back next week when we'll talk about some other kind of industry.
Yeah, we'll talk about enterprise.
We'll try to stay away from enterprise anything.
How to keep your customers from sending you their credit card numbers via tweets.
I'm thinking maybe we talk about new mattress design and talk about how you can create a bank out of a mattress.
Awesome.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us. See you soon.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.